Actually, it was drums. Even before that, it was percussion and lots of pots and pans. Drove my family crazy, banging on stuff. So they got me a conga drum, maybe when I was around 7 or 8. And then I progressed to drums, but never really got serious until I was about 14 or 15. And I started really learning drum patterns. And then my brother took over the drums very quickly. Mark Gilmore, not to be confused with Marcus Gilmore, is another drummer. And he took over the drums, and then I started picking up the guitar when I was about around that age, 15 or so, and I dabbled in piano. And once I picked the guitar up, I kind of stuck with it, and that became my predominant instrument. I played drums and guitar for a while, like through high school, but guitar started taking over after that. Yeah, well, I had a beat-up acoustic nylon string guitar that my sister used to play, and I started learning chords on that just out of a book. And so I went through, 6 months of pain and indents in my fingers, and like, why am I doing this? And trying to get a sound, because it takes a long time just to get a good sound out of the instrument. And then my father one day, he brought home an electric guitar that someone left in his, he had a warehouse where he used to work, and it was a SG. Gibson SG, had a broken truss rod in it, so the action was super low. And it was an electric, so I wasn't used to it. I was used to guitar strings being this high off the fretboard. So when I picked up this guitar, I was like, this is too easy to play. Then I found a cheap little Sears amp and started playing electric guitar. And that's when I started getting into guitar, because I wasn't really into any particular instrument other than, I would say I was tuned more to drums and percussion as a child listening to music. Guitar never really grabbed me as an instrument. I never thought about it. It just was sort of an accident picking it up in the house. It was just knocking around. So I don't know, I just sort of started playing chords. A friend of mine I met in high school, he played bass, and he started showing me some chords from Earth, Wind and Fire and some things, and we formed a group. We did a talent show. I'd been playing like 6 months, and we just went in there for fun, and we won. It was like, what? This is cool. So we just started, I started taking lessons actually probably within the first year, and that really helped me. My first teacher was John Boboyan, who teaches to this day at Berklee College of Music, where I'm teaching at now. So he got me into jazz standards, and before that I was not into jazz at all. I was pretty much into radio music, R&B, funk, that kind of stuff. So that was around 15, 16 I started getting into jazz. The first, well, back up a bit. I mean, I heard jazz before I started playing guitar, because my parents had a pretty extensive record collection, and so they actually had some Charlie Parker, they had some, Nat King Cole, they had a bunch of stuff. So Louis Armstrong. So I listened to that stuff and I liked it, but didn't really get this understanding of what it's about until I started really getting into music more. So I would say, as far as a guitar player, maybe George Benson was the first person who really turned my head around. And I saw him on Saturday Night Live back then. This was probably like around 78, 79. And he was scatting and playing, as he does, and that really hit me. And then I started checking out his albums and backtracking a bit. Then I discovered Miles Davis, and I realized my parents have just, a bunch of Miles Davis records. The first one I actually came across was The Man with a Horn, his comeback album, with Mike Stern on it, Marcus Miller, Al Foster, and that was really like a pivotal point for me, because it had this rock guitar sound with a jazz kind of thing going on, and that really turned my head around. I was like, and that's when I discovered the earlier stuff. Miles, back, it shocked. I couldn't make the connection at the time that it was this fusion stuff going on, and then it was this Miles Davis playing with Bird, and so then I really started digging the history and checking things out a little bit more, and discovering jazz guitar players as well. I would say, he comes from this rhythmic, he comes from an R&B background. He's an R&B singer. He actually sang before he played guitar, from what I understand, when he was 10 or 11. I think his first recording was as a singer. I just like his rhythmic approach, and it's just got groove and it's got feel. And it's got sophistication to it as well. So the first impact coming from growing up with Parliament Funkadelic and Sly Stone and all that stuff, to me, it wasn't a big stretch to hear his stuff. You know, it just spoke to me because of the phrasing and the rhythm. Yeah, I mean, just the other day, my daughter put on an iPod. She put some Led Zeppelin on, actually, and you know, that's something. Actually, I didn't get into that kind of music, rock music, until my college years. I actually never heard of Led Zeppelin until my freshman year. You know, and to me, again, that was like coming from, I won't say jazz, but you know, John Bonham, and it was much more sophisticated rhythmically and harmonically than most rock music I hear today. So that grabbed me as a musician, and so you know, I think I'm starting to listen. I don't know. You know, I just went through my CD collection. I'm trying to alphabetize it, so I'm pulling things here and there, and it's hard to listen to myself sometimes. Some of these things in the past, because I hear my developmental stage, you know, and but sometimes it's refreshing at the same time. You know, when I listen to myself back on some earlier recordings, I hear actually more of a freedom in a way. You know, it's just a discovery thing, and it reminds me to keep that spirit of discovery. You know, because it's very easy, I think, when we get older to really try to, you know, program things and go into we get into this rote movement, you know, and it's kind of hard to break apart from that. And you know, I learned that from actually Wayne Shorter and Steve Coleman. They speak about that, you know, both verbally and in their music, of just freedom and abandonment and really going for the moment and not having this, you know, preconceived stuff when you get on stage. And so I'll purposely, you know, not prepare too much for certain things. I mean, I'll practice the melodies and things like that, but when it comes to solos and things, there are certain artists who want things prepared, certain artists who are more spontaneous. So I try to be more spontaneous about things.